Welcome back into the All Things Mizzou podcast presented by Missouri Tigers on SI. This is episode 3. We are about 2.5 weeks in to Missouri Tigers fall camp now, and the excitement is starting to pick up. We got polls coming out. We got team captains coming out. The game against Murray State is now just over 2 weeks away as we are recording this. Michael is back in Columbia. I was there last week, and I'm moving it back in to Columbia on this Saturday. So, Michael is joining us from the Student Center on campus. How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. Yeah, we got some interesting circumstances today, don't we? But yeah, I'm here. I also move in on Saturday. I'm excited to be back, ready to have a home, and I'm also ready for some. I'm ready for some Missouri football. So.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be talking about some of the developments going on during fall camp. When I was there last week, quite an insightful week from the practices that we got to view, and then also from Coach Drinkwitz had quite a few updates for us, including how everybody did in the scrimmage. If you want to check out full coverage on that, be sure to check out the site again. Missouri on SI was there for quite a few days of practices, and then we got the recap on the scrimmage from Drinkwitz, like I said. But we also did get some breaking news today, Wednesday, with Darris Smith, the edge rusher transfer from Georgia, hearing that he will miss the 2024 season with a knee injury he suffered in practice on Tuesday, which is just really unfortunate news for Darris and Missouri. Was going to be in that rotation. It was kind of hard to tell exactly what the starting edge rusher group would look like, but really Johnny Walker, Zion Young from Michigan State, and then Smith, it was pretty clear we're going to be the three main guys. Michael, just your thoughts on this injury for Missouri?
Well, it's really disappointing, first off. I mean, I think a lot of people were excited to see what he brought to the table. I mean, it's a big name. He was a high-rated recruiter to high school, committed to Georgia. So I think there's definitely people excited to see him. That being said, kind of like you said, I don't know if there's still any major concerns about the position group. You still have Walker, you still have Kelly, you still have Zion Young, you have Joe Moore too. Maybe this gives highly touted freshman Williams Maneri more of an opportunity to see the field. So it's very unfortunate. A lot of people were excited to see him, including me. I was very excited to see what he brought to the table. Very unique player in the way he's built and the athleticism he brings and his skill set. And I was excited to see he didn't really get much of a chance to prove himself at Georgia. So I was excited to see him try to prove himself. But I think the position group is in good hands. So it's very unfortunate, but I don't think that edge group is going to be there might be a little bit of a drop-off, but I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think they have the depth to, I hate to say replace players, but fill that void that he left there. I do think they lose a little bit of versatility. I think he was going to be the main guy behind Walker at the joker position in between defense. So they do lose a little bit of versatility in the linebacker room. But again, I still think they have to be happy of what they got there. And then also with the same kind of versatile athletic guys in the linebacker room, they have Khalil Jacobs and Corey Flagg too, who can also do quite a bit of different things, even if it's not at Mike linebacker, if it's at Will, like Smith might have played a little bit of. So overall, I think Missouri, no reason to panic with the Smith injury, just a disappointing loss for sure. But, they have to also be thankful for, this is their first injury really that's going to play and carry into the season at all. They did have 3 injuries, which I guess we can talk about now that they're dealing with in fall camp, but really won't carry it too much longer. So tight end Brett Norfleet and also another tight end, Jordan Harris, along with freshman running back Quan Lacey, all missing this past week of practice with injury. I believe they started missing time last Tuesday or Wednesday is when at least Harris and Norfleet were out of practice. We got an update from Coach Drinkwitz on Saturday, though, that both of them are just dealing with minor injuries and should be back to full form by the end of practice this week. As of Tuesday's practice, again, none of these 3 guys were out there. Quan Lacey missed a practice or 2 late in the week, and then also missed a scrimmage the team had on Saturday. So, the one guy where you'd even be somewhat concerned about with this injury is Lacey, but not as much how that's hurting the team, more so just for him to not get as many reps as possible. But other than that, no reason to really pay too much attention to these injuries as long as they're nothing that will restrict them at all throughout the season. Michael, any thoughts on those 3 offensive injuries?
I think one positive that's going to come out of this is freshman Whit Hafer and Jude James are getting some reps at the tight end spot. Just experience wise, it's going to be good for them to get some more time and valuable experience there. Kind of that's the downside of Lacey, right? Kind of like you said, he's missing out on some of those reps. But yeah, I don't think I'm overly concerned. I don't think anyone else is overly concerned. If they were, we'd probably know about it. So hopefully nothing too serious. But I like hearing Hafer and James' name get thrown out there. I think they get kind of overshadowed by how deep and how top heavy this recruiting class was, and not that anyone's expecting those two to be like breakout superstars, right? But just to hear their names get tossed around is it's good to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, Drinkwitz said on Saturday that Hafer and James were both guys that were stepping up in their apps and getting more opportunities. And I think, to have both those two guys out, I mean, you like Harris, who didn't see much playing time last year, would be good to, again, get him some more, as many reps as possible. But now that tight end room is left with Tyler Stevens as the number 1 guy, and then pretty much Whit and Jude as the 2 guys behind him. So really valuable opportunities there for the 2 true freshmen and St. Louis area products. Now we were just talking about recruiting. You were talking about this 2024 class, Michael. But for the 2025 class, looking ahead to that one, they did lose a member that committed to them in that crazy flurry of commits near July 4th weekend with Javon Boggs, the Florida product, originally committed to Missouri, announced this past week, now going to UCF, flipped his commitment. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but was he originally committed to another school before he committed to Missouri?
Yeah, he absolutely was. He was originally committed to Ohio State, decommitted, and then repicked Missouri, included Ohio State in his top 4. UCF was also in his top 4 schools, and then flipped it again. He's from Cocoa, Florida, so I don't exactly know how close Cocoa is to UCF, but I'd imagine there's some draw there. But if I'm being honest, I mean, I was sitting on my couch watching TV at 9 o'clock when he announced this decommitment, so it was a surprise to, I would imagine, most people. And I mean, it sucks, right? It's kind of the first. It is the first loss really for the 2025 class, so it is disappointing. We've seen a lot of the targets come off the board for the Tigers, either in their class or others, especially at the receiver spot. I mean, just off the top of my head, I know Isaiah Mosey. He's a local kid. He's now committed to Nebraska. I believe Dylan Alfred was another target. He's committed to Ole Miss, I believe. So some of those receiver targets are off the board, which is not alarming, I say, because there's so much time left in this class for things to get rounded out. But as far as what's next after Boggs, it's kind of hard to say who's going to fill that spot. But again, there's so much time. It's kind of hard to fault a kid for wanting to stay close to home. So at the end, it does suck at the end of the day to lose a guy, especially when the class was doing that well. But I mean, again, it's hard to diss a kid who's trying to make the best decision for himself, and that he wants to be close to his family, friends, and things like that. So kind of hard to fault him there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Of there's no need to go out on this kid. And I think that's lost so many times on the internet. And the thing that really irritated me with recruiting, like the main instance I can think of is when Ryan Wingo chose Texas over Missouri, and all
goodness, yeah.
outrage isn't even the right word for it, but just questioning of his decision, his parents' involvement in it. I just think, like, I get, this is big time football. There's a lot of passion involved in this, but also it's, a 17, 16 sometimes 17-year-old kid making this decision, and there's so many factors that play into it now. And I mean, one, if you're the main pitch for Missouri, or a big part of the pitch for Missouri for local kids is going to be staying home, then you have to realize that's going to be a part of the pitch for, in Boggs' case, UCF. And obviously, I think a lot of the hate, online ridiculousness comes from NIL money and accusing kids of, or speculating how much money whatever school paid and how much that weighed into the kid's decision. I think it's just a little bit of nonsense. You need to take a step back and realize, at the end of the day, these are kids making big time decisions here.
One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the hate, if you want to call it that, or disrespect towards Boggs and in general that you see was because this is his third school he's picked, which I mean, you could see how that might be frustrating, but just like you said, he's trying to make the best decision for himself. And once you sign your letter of intent, it gets a lot harder to back out of that. I mean, it's still possible, but it's a lot more challenging for that to happen. So he has the power to back in and out of a commitment right now, which I mean, if he has the power, he might as well. And again, no one's going to fault him for staying close to home. I just looked it up.
Yep.
Coco's 45 minutes from Orlando, so he's close. Yeah, he's close.
Yeah. Speaking about rankings, though, I know for sure where Missouri ranked in the AP and coaches poll this past week. Number 11 in both. First time since 2015 that Missouri was ranked in the preseason AP poll. There's obviously no surprise that they were ranked this year. And I know the main thing you could even pick apart about this is that they're not in the top 10, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to prove it out on the field either way. And now they have the opportunity to do that and earn some more recognition throughout the season. Michael, any thoughts on these rankings and if they should be higher, lower, just right?
My honest opinion is that I don't care all that much.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about hate and outrage on social media, there was plenty of people upset about this one. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at all. It's a starting point. Not many people know what's going on in these practices and camps, and especially some of these guys that are making these rankings. So it's just a prediction. Could they be higher? Yeah. I think I read that a lot of people had them, a lot of voters had them ranked around the 9 area, but a couple lower ones bumped them down. So could they be in that top 10? Sure. You can go ahead and pick apart who they should be ahead of and who they shouldn't be ahead of. But it's just a starting point. And like you said, now they get the opportunity to go prove to themselves and everyone else that they deserve to be there or even higher.
Right, exactly. There was one voter in the AP who had them, I think, at spot number 5, but then there was also 1 or 2 that had them near 20.
Yeah, I think I saw that as well.
Yeah, pretty big range, but I mean, most of them obviously had them near that 11th spot. One more thing from fall camp that I want to talk about. We did, I believe it was on Thursday of last week, Missouri ran a no huddle drill for about 2 minutes. They ran it once with the 1s and then with the 2s. I don't believe on either of them they were doing any passing plays. I believe it was exclusively running plays. With the 1s, they had Nate Noel in there. With the 2s, I should look back at my notes, but I believe it was Jamal Roberts. I mean, the first thing I'd point out with that drill was Nate Noel being with the 1s, and we heard from Drinkwitz on Saturday. It sounds like Nate Noel has not really won the competition because there wasn't really a competition for starting running back. It was always pretty clear that it was going to be some sort of split between Noel and Carroll. However, it does seem, hearing from Coach Drinkwitz and also seeing what lineups are thrown out there, that Noel is going to be more of that every down guy. And then Marcus Carroll is going to be, we talked about this last week of replacing each bit of what Cody Schrader offered. And Carroll certainly brings that downhill running style, while Noel is so much more shiftier. I could see one of my notes in practice from last week on pretty much every day was just how shifty Noel was in space. He he's really patient with the ball, but he's also not hesitant at all. So that's first thing I want to point out with that no huddle drill. I mean, Michael, what's your thoughts on Noel and just kind of what that split will look like between him and Carroll?
I have no disagreements with anything you said. Noel is shifty. He's fast. Presents himself more as a multi-down, back, and then exactly like you said, Carroll's a third down. He's powerful. Probably gonna get you in the end zone a little bit more. So yeah, no disagreements at all. I'm excited to see how they bounce off each other. I haven't seen. Obviously I haven't been to a practice yet. Hopefully here soon. I'm excited to see how they play off each other because I think it's a very unique situation where they're both, they both have plenty of experience playing in, different areas and almost like complete opposite skill sets, which, it's a unique situation. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play off each other for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an adjustment for both of them, I think, to be in, a split backfield. Carroll, however, I believe when I was doing my transfer profile on him, he actually had a year or two where he was the backup, and then also in a year where he kind of split the backfield as well. So not as much as an adjustment for him, but coming over from App State from Nate Noel, where pretty sure he, was the lead back for most of the past few years. Going to be a new situation for them. Going to be a newer situation for Missouri, but they did have that, a few years ago. So will be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out in the offense. And kind of like we talked about, I believe is in our first episode, it could also just be week to week who has a hot hand, could be week to week depending on the opponent and what kind of defense they have. So excited to watch that running back room this year. Also in that no huddle drill, the media only gets, I'm not complaining here, like it's just what it is. Media only gets about 40 minutes of each practice to view because obviously they're trying to got as much information as possible. So if they have a bunch of TV cameras in there when they're doing team drills, everybody's going to have the starting lineup and we'll have a perfect look at any schemes they're trotting out there trying. But so we mostly get individual drills besides this no huddle drill. So they also do goal line at the start of practice, but we're not allowed to film that. But obviously we can write it down in our notebook and give the best description of it. So during the this no huddle drill here, I was just trying to write down as many numbers as possible that I could see on the field. My one for the defense was just a bunch of scrambled mess everywhere that I didn't even want to report because I was not sure how accurate my split second writing was. And then for the first team offensive line, though, there was no surprises. He had Marcus Bryant at left tackle, Caden Green at left guard, Connor Charleston at center, Cameron Johnson at right guard, Armand Mimbo at right tackle. Second team offensive line, though, they had Javen Richardson, the JUCO transfer at left tackle, Logan Reichert, the sophomore from Kansas City at left guard, Drake Heismeyer at center, Curtis Pugler at right guard, and then Mitchell Walters at right tackle. And obviously, the second team offensive line isn't going to exactly be, offensive line is difficult because the backups at each position is really just a domino effect of what happens. For instance, like, if they have an injury at left tackle, I guess they just slide Javen Richardson in there. But if he's hurt, then, if Javen and Marcus Bryant are hurt, you probably just slide Caden Green over. Maybe they like Green over Richardson anyway, so they put him in at left tackle. So it really would just be a lot of dominoes to fall. But I did find this interesting to get this look at the back offensive line because there's just so many questions at each of those backup positions. So I guess the main interesting thing for me would be Logan Reichert at left guard. Not too much of a surprise, but kind of thought, I guess depending on how things would have shaked up with Bryant and Richardson, maybe could have had Green at left tackle, but and then Reichert at left guard. But obviously getting those two guys in the transfer portal helps out a lot there. Heismeyer at center isn't too much of a surprise. Mitch Walters kind of a more experienced guy at right tackle. Nothing too shocking there. Any notes for you, Michael?
I mean, nothing crazy. If you're going back to last week or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about positional battles at that left tackle spot, I think we definitely, gave the nod to Marcus Bryant, so it's not surprising to see him there. But we did hear Javen Richardson's name mentioned once or twice, so I think maybe there was a glimmer of something, a shocking change, but nothing crazy like we expected. I agree with you. It's nice to see Reichert out there. The only other main thing I'd say is we heard Talon Chandler's name thrown around once or twice at the backup center spot as well. So it's not shocking to see Heismeyer there. He's experienced, but we did hear Chandler's name mentioned a time or two. So that's someone who maybe could have been slotted in there, but it's not shocking that Heismeyer's there at all.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think the last chance we'll have to get a look at the lineups before week 1 against Murray State will be this Saturday at the open practice at Faurot Field. We'll see. I didn't go to it last year. I'm assuming it's just going to be a pretty casual walkthrough. That was in the only other practice I had open to fans last year. Very casual walkthrough, almost completely individual drill. So I'm assuming it'll be the same for this Saturday. Then one last thing before we get to our 7-on-7 draft, which I'm very excited for. Just want to talk about any possible surprises for this upcoming season. And obviously, if they were true surprises, we'd just be throwing darts at the bulletin board. But it does seem that every year there is at least one player who kind of takes on a more shocking role or a bigger role than we expected. And even, kind of elevations in the depth chart. And, the one that we kind of heard this past week and we saw in practice as well, that could be a surprise. A guy that we heard was doing well in fall camp, but really didn't realize he was this high in the lineup was Nicholas Deloach, the sophomore defensive back. Drinkwitz said on Saturday that he's been rotating in with Toriano Pride with ones, assuming opposite of Drayden Norwood. So Deloach, again, like we heard he was doing good in fall camp, heard that he was doing a lot better than his freshman year, but did not realize that he'd be in the starting lineup with the corners. So that's a shock. Very good to talk to Deloach this week as well. Just talk so much about the confidence he has now, just knowing his way. And I mean, that's really what a lot of freshmen talked about, or sophomores now, of just being so focused last year on not making mistakes. And even guys that played last year, like Marquise Johnson and Marvin Burks, have talked about the same thing of being so focused on just not messing up in your freshman year to now being really able to hone it on your game, focus on the fundamentals. And Deloach mentioned also trusting the coaching, to trust that, it's a step-by-step process. I was eavesdropping on defense line coach Al Davis this past week at practice, and he was talking to his guys about, each drill serving a purpose and having to stack all these pieces together little by little. A little becomes a lot, to steal a common phrase from Kirby Moore, piecing it all together. And I'm sure that's kind of part of it for every young player. So Deloach seems a lot improved. Even Mookie Cooper, when we talked to him last week, noticed that, I think maybe it was Joshua Manning, one of the wide receivers, talked about how Deloach was so much less antsy out there. It's even visible. It's a physical manifestation with your nerves. So interested to see how Deloach does this year. Michael, any thoughts on Nicholas, and then any other surprise candidates you got?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I didn't know much about Deloach coming into last season or this season. So it's kind of nice to hear. It's always fun to hear a new name around this time, because injuries happen, and looking into the future, like the people on this roster aren't going to be here forever. Guys are going to graduate, or they're going to maybe transfer, unfortunately, or go to the NFL, which is best case scenario. So it's always nice to hear who is next up. As far as other names, I think we kind of mentioned Daniel Blood, who we've maybe thrown his name around the last couple of weeks, but it sounds like he's starting to stand out, which is really interesting in the receiver room, because if there's one thing we have made very clear these last couple of weeks, it's that the Missouri receiver room is deep. I think it's not, it's not too out there to say it's one of the best receiver rooms in the country. and you have your top 3 or 4 guys, and obviously Luther Burden, Weiss, Cooper, and maybe Marquise Johnson. But it seems like there's not many opportunities, but it also seems like there's a lot of guys who we didn't know much about. They're starting to prove themselves now. Manning was one last week, and then now Daniel Blood. So that's going to be interesting to see. He caught 2 passes for 20 yards last year, both in the LSU game. So we haven't seen much of him, but it's going to be interesting to see where he fits in. He's another small, shifty receiver, yard after the catch guy, which we have. The Tigers have plenty of. So it's going to be interesting. It's all I can really say. I don't know where he fits in, if he fits in, but yeah.
Yeah, when I asked Drinkwitz about him this past week, he called him a utility player, which is interesting. But I mean, the main thing for him, like you said, is yards after the catch. 5'10", 182. I'm looking up right now. Said he's learned a lot from Luther from that. I asked him, like, what's the process of improving your yards after the catch ability? Like, what's the little details? And he said that the offensive coaches had told him about a term called DART. I don't think that's one of this coaching staff's out there acronyms. I think it just means to go fearlessly into the battlefield of the defensive secondary, to not be so, he mentioned there's no rule that a defense back has to tackle you before you can go. So obviously you got to make sure you have the ball before you start running. But instead of trying to create a one-on-one situation with a cornerback where you got to juke him out wherever, just start forward. So obviously Luther is that main guy for this offense as far as Yak goes, but will be interesting to see how Daniel makes a role for himself this year. Could also be a punt returner. Both him and Manning were all-state punt returners in high school, and they're both competing for that job now. So will be interesting. I mean, like you mentioned at the top, very crowded wide receiver room that both of them are really going to have to earn their way in. But kind of like you were talking about with Deloach too, after this year, Mizzou wide receiver room it's going to be completely different. Mookie Cooper is still going to have 1 year of eligibility left, but other than that, it's going to be unless Luther Burden really wants to get the most out of his college career and pull Andrew Luck, probably going to be the last year for Luther Burden, definitely going to be the last year for Theo Weiss. I would assume this is Mekhi Miller's last year of eligibility. But, I mean, either way, you got a really exciting Mekhi Miller still has 2025 season coming up. But exciting 2025 class of wide receiver commits coming in, even without Boggs. And Manning and Blood are at that point, are along with Marquise Johnson, fellow member of class 2023, are really going to be the most experienced guys in that room. So even if they aren't main guys this year, they'll be able to carve themselves out some more opportunities, more confidence, more experience heading to a year where they'll be relied on a lot more heavily in 2025. All right, that's all the news we got coming from this past week of fall camp. I guess we should mention too, Mizzou announced the team captains for yesterday. No surprises there. Quarterback Brady Cook for his third year as captain, wide receiver Theo Weiss, defensive end Johnny Walker, defense tackle Christian Williams, and inside linebacker Chuck Hicks, entering his 7th season of college football. So on to the exciting part of our episode, though. Me and Michael are going to be drafting a 7-on-7 team. So 7 players on defense and 7 players on offense for each of us. We came prepared. I did not bring a draft board. I've just been thinking heavily in my head. So we're going to be drafting 1 quarterback, obviously, 6 skill players, and then on defense side of the ball, 2 safeties, and then 5 players split between linebacker and corner. So this should be an exciting exercise, and hopefully get a chance for both of us to talk some more about some, middle of the lineup guys who, that we were just talking about, of who could have a surprising role this season. So I guess we didn't really decide who will have the first pick, what order we'll go in, but out of kindness for the situation Michael is in to go to practice tomorrow, I will give you the first pick, Michael.
That's so nice of you. Any order we're going in, or I can just go wherever I want?
Wherever you want.
All right, let's get the obvious one out of the way. I'm
Hmm.
gonna take Luther Burden. I don't think I need
Okay.
to. I don't think I need to explain myself all that much. He's incredible. He's unless he has a down year or gets injured, he's going to be a top pick in this coming NFL draft. He
Hmm.
is a fan favorite amongst everyone. I don't know. He's consensus one of the best receivers in the country, so it doesn't need much explaining. That's an easy pick for me.
Okay, so it's interesting that you take Burden because I was actually debating in my head of if I were to have the first pick, if I'd go with Brady Cook or Luther Burden. So that makes this an easy decision for me. I do think there is somewhat of argument where you'd go with Cook over Burden, just because I mean they did win games without Burden last year. Um, but I don't disagree with your judgment there, and I cannot complain about having Brady Cook as my starting quarterback. With all due respect to Drew Prine, so I will take Brady Cook with my second pick. Michael, who you got up next?
I think those are the two really obvious ones. So it gets a little trickier
Yeah.
here. I'm gonna go ahead and take away your receiving options.
Okay.
Um, I'm not gonna take maybe the next obvious one. I really want Marquise Johnson, so I'm gonna take
Ooh.
Marquise Johnson, and I'll give you my rationale for this. You made a great point. They were able to win games without Luther Burden, and you have my quarterback. So I'm maybe want to go with guys who can really operate with the ball in their hands. They don't have to, as long as they can get open. They can go
Mhm.
do their thing. So I'm going to go with a guy who is incredibly fast, shifty, and great with the ball in his hands. So I have two of those now. So I'm going to go with Marquise Johnson.
Okay, that rationale makes sense. You could have, the obvious, next best wide receiver on Missouri's roster would be Theo Weiss, but without Brady Cook, again, all due respect, Drew Pine seems like a great guy and is having a good fall camp according to Drinkwitz. But your thought process there makes sense. You need a really accurate deep thrower, a guy with great chemistry if you're going to take Theo Weiss. So Marquise Johnson is probably the better pick there. And that's the thing I was thinking of with my draft process too. Of really having to think of these seven guys you got instead of just the 7 or 14 best players on this team. Because for example, like Brett Northfield is a really good player, but he's great as a receiver as well. But you're losing out on that blocking value. I guess he still could in a 7-on-7 game, but maybe I shouldn't think too all that much about it. Um, I just because I don't want you to take all my receivers away, and because I do have Brady Cook, I am going to take Theo Weiss for my second pick here. What's up next for you, Michael?
Let's crack open the defensive side of the ball
Mm-hmm.
here, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
You just mentioned his name a couple minutes ago. He is clearly very experienced with that many years on the football field. I want Chuck Hicks. Um,
Ooh.
he's talented. Obviously, he might not be the most talented, but if you're thinking about a leader and a guy in the middle who can operate the defense, I think that is probably the best bet. So I know
Yeah.
it might seem slightly not conventional, but I don't know. I feel like he's a guy who can run my defense. So give me Chuck
Okay.
Hicks.
That's a good call there. Yeah, especially for a 7-on-7 game because Johnny Walker would his main asset is rushing the passer, and I don't think we're allowing that in this 7-on-7 game. I I kind of want to take a running back. I th- I think I am. I'm gonna go with Nate Noel. Sticking all offense for my first two picks, and I like what I got going. What's up next for you, Michael, at pick 4?
You know what? I'm actually happy you took Nate Noel because I want Marcus Carroll.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
I have guys who are good with the ball in their hands. They're quick. They're shifty. A little bit on
Hmm.
the smaller side. Now I have Carroll, who is He's big. He can break tackles. He can get through defenders. I guess maybe not in 7-on-7, but and yeah, I'll give me Carroll.
Okay. I should probably take a defender. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Toriano Pride.
That's probably the next best one. That's a very good pick.
If I'm going up against Luther Burden, I want Toriano on my team. Now, obviously, I mean, like, I trust Toriano in the slot. He hasn't been going at that much in practice. He said that he hasn't had too many one-on-one matchups with Luther, at least in his time at Missouri. But he says he's been, like, they're obviously both St. Louis area kids, played at East St. Louis at least for a year or two together. They've been going up against each other since they were 8 years old. So I trust Toriano Pride in this matchup. What's up next for you, Michael? Pick number 5.
I'm gonna copycat you and go on defense, but I'm gonna take a safety and take Dalen Cardinell. Just another guy I trust to kind of operate a defense for me. So yeah, give me Cardinell. I think I like that a lot.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and take Brett Norfleet here. Just need another receiver in there. I like what Noel can offer as a receiver, certainly, but I like Brett Norfleet on my team. What are we seeing at? I got 1, 2, we both got 5. Michael, pick number 6. Where are you going?
Yeah, the options are starting to, as far as main names, options start to dwindle a little bit here. Let me think. I get 6 skill players, correct?
Yep.
I'm gonna take my 3rd receiver.
Okay.
You know what? This actually isn't Mookie Cooper is still available.
Yeah,
so, yeah. Give me Mookie Cooper. I don't know why I had to think about that for a second. Yeah, absolutely. Give me Mookie Cooper. I was thinking about taking someone else, but if he's still there, there's no reason to pass on him.
Yeah, that popped into my mind as soon as you were making that decision. I'm gonna go back to the defense side of the ball, and I'm gonna take Corey Flagg.
Okay, that's a good one.
Specifically for a 7-on-7 game. I think he's very versatile, brings great athleticism to the table. So Corey Flagg as my second defense player. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 players each now. Michael, pick number 7. Where are you going?
Man, I kind of want to copy you again and take a linebacker, but I'm gonna shore up my safeties here.
Okay.
And take Marvin Burks. I think having a monopoly on safeties sounds pretty good to me. So I'll take Burks.
Okay. I'm not going to say what I was going to say and reveal any future draft strategies, and I'm going to go take a wide receiver now. And well, this is interesting because the number 5 wide receiver would be Mekhi Miller. I'm going to gamble here and take James Madison right here, even though we have not seen him take a single snap in a Mizzou uniform.
I like it a lot.
He's probably dominated in a lot of 7-on-7 camps. So he's used to this playing style. I know everybody else is, at least any other blue chip recruits, but I like this. I like Madison here. A lot of spectacular catchability. So we round out at 7 now. Michael, what's pick number 8 for you?
Man, I'm starting to get some brilliant ideas, Joey. You might need to be scared.
Okay.
But I don't have a single cornerback yet. So I'll just take a safe, and I'll take Drayden Norwood.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to stay in the secondary here. And I was surprised when you were talking about taking a safety, surprised you didn't take him. I'm going with Joseph Charleston.
Yeah.
Very, because on defense right now, I just got 2 transfers from Flagg and Pride. So I'll take the experienced Joseph Charleston. Pick number 9, Michael. Rounding out our team, what you got?
Well, you know what? I don't have my quarterback yet, so let's get that out of the way. I know you weren't taking Drew Pine, but I'll take him just so I have that I have that
I
shirt up.
I was really thinking of really screwing you over and taking a backup quarterback.
Man,
Um,
that would have been good. That would have changed a lot of
but-
things. That would have changed a lot of
yeah. Um, let's see here. I got one, two. Mm,
Should be your ninth, I believe.
yeah. 5, 6, 7. Yeah, ninth pick. Um, I'll take someone we were just talking about, and I'll take. uh, yeah, I'm gonna take Nicholas Deloach.
Yeah,
Marcus Clark.
I was thinking about him as well.
But like, if you asked me a week ago, my pick would have been Marcus Clark over him. But I'm going to trust the confidence coaching staff has on him and take him as my number 2 corner here. So we're both at 9 now. Michael, what do you got for pick number 10?
Well, yeah, I was yeah, that changes things a lot because he was kind of my next man up. And I think I mentioned this guy maybe in our first episode. So this is going to be maybe a little bit out there. I'm going to take
Okay.
Jamarian Wayne. He's a converted receiver to corner. We don't know a lot about him, but so my secondary might be a little controversial, but just for fun, we're going to take Jamarian Wayne. I think I like that a lot. He's versatile. Maybe he gets a chance to prove himself.
You could use him as a wide receiver and a corner on your team.
Yeah. that'll throw people off.
I'm gonna go with an actual wide receiver here and just take a safer pick in Mekhi Miller. Daniel Blood might be the more exciting option, but I took a risk with Madison, so I'll go with Mekhi Miller here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got one more pick on offense after this, but we're both at 10 picks right now. Michael, pick 11. Who do you have?
This is, I was gonna save this one till the very end, but I think I'm just gonna do it anyway because it's fun. I'm gonna take my tight end pick here, and I'm gonna take Whit Hafer.
Ooh.
And I know I think his main the main skill set he brings to the table is as a blocking option. So I don't know how impactful that is in a 7-on-7 scenario, but he's a huge target. He's like 6'7", 255 pounds, I believe. So he's a massive target. So he could catch some passes and maybe get out and block a little bit for my receivers. So I like that option. Not any crazy expectations as far as a receiving threat goes, but you can always dump it off to him as a safety option.
Okay, I don't hate that pick. I definitely need another linebacker here. I'm going to take Tristan Newsome.
Yeah,
even though
I'm
he's
surprised he lasted this long, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of Khalil Jacobs, but more than anything right now, I need a tackler in that group. So, going to take Newsome again, experienced guy for sure. So both got 6 on the offense, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on defense. Michael, what do you got?
Yeah, you honestly just spoiled my next pick. I'm gonna take Khalil Jacobs. He's the next best one up, and maybe not as proven as Newsom, but I mean I have Chuck Hicks already, so he's not going to be a bad second option at all.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think. I guess I need another safety because at this point offensively, we just have a grab bag of possible contributors. So I'll take a safety here, and I'll take Sidney Williams.
Yep.
Played a little bit well, actually no. Whoa. Trevez Johnson. I honestly probably should have gotten higher for both of us. Trevez Johnson here for pick number 6 for me defensively. Michael, who do you got next?
None of us have taken a backup running back yet.
Mm-hmm.
So let's Let's go with Jamal Roberts.
Dang. Okay.
I like that sound. I think he
Yeah,
might compliment. Yeah, he might compliment Carroll well. So let's go with Roberts.
I'd agree. Yeah, that's those three are kind of where the running back room starts and ends.
For
I mean,
sure.
I guess Quan Lacey's just a question mark. I mean, I wouldn't hate taking him right here though. But you know what? I'm just gonna stick with Noel there, and I think I'm gonna take Daniel Blood here. We just
Okay.
talked about him. I'll have a very heavy wide receiver room. Four wide receivers
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I like that. That's versatile too.
Yes.
Weiss is more of Weiss and Madison are more jump ball. They're bigger guys, and then you have Miller and Blood who are shiftier with the ball. I like that. That's a
Yeah.
good combination there.
Certainly. So this should be our last pick.
Yes, it is.
Both going to be on defense for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who you got,
This
Michael?
is interesting because I mean this is going to be a player who can make an impact, but where can they
Yeah.
make an impact is certainly more of a question. I'm kind of stuck between two guys. I think I'm gonna take Trajan Greco. I think he can play safety and corner. Um,
Mhm.
so he provides a little bit of versatility, and he doesn't, like maybe he sees the field, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he can play multiple positions. So I'll go with Trajan Greco.
Okay. I like that pick. Definitely been one of the most popular names of fall camp. For my last pick here, I'm just gonna go with safe pick, and I will say Marcus Clark.
Yeah,
Cam
I
Keys,
don't.
I also thought of, but Marcus Clark is most experienced there on that defense
That
line
might
for me.
Keys might have been a little more exciting, but
Yeah, I think I had too many exciting gamble picks, but that rounds out our team. Obviously, the first pick for each of us obviously determines a lot of these, but Michael ends with Drew Pine at quarterback, Marcus Carroll, and Jamal Roberts at running back. Wide receiver, really good room here. Luther Burden, Marquise Johnson, Mookie Cooper, Whit Hafer, the true freshman tight end. And those guys are going up against my defense of Tristan Newsome, Corey Flagg, Marcus Clark, Toriano Pride, Nicholas Deloach, Joseph Charleston, and Trevez Johnson. Offensively, I got Brady Cook, Nate Noel, Theo Weiss, James Madison, Kai Miller, Daniel Blood, Brett Norfleet going up against Michael's defense of Khalil Jacobs, Chuck Hicks, Drayden Norwood, Jamarion Wayne, Kalen Carnell, Marvin Burks, and Trajan Greco. Pretty even teams there. I mean, Luther Burden is just so much of a so independent of a quarterback's performance. I feel that Drew Pine just has to get him the ball within a decent target, and then Luther can do all of
yeah,
the work after
yeah,
that.
exactly. That was exactly my thought process with all of my receivers. I think it goes for Johnson and Cooper as well. The
Mm-hmm.
expectations can be lower for Pine. He just has to get everyone the ball. So as
Yeah.
long as he can do that safely, I think it's all good. I biased and get to say my team has the edge because of exactly what you just said. I do think I think your corners match up better with my receivers than the other way around.
Yeah.
So that it might make it interesting. But I don't know if there's many corners in the country who can, in any way, whether it's 7-on-7 or a normal
Mm-hmm.
game of football. I don't think there's a lot of people who can guard Luther Burden. So I think that's such a big advantage that I give myself the edge. But that's a little bias, obviously.
I like our team, so I like this exercise. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it too, and let us know your thoughts on who is winning this 7-on-7 game in the comments below. And with that, we really appreciate all of the support listenership we've had on the first two episodes of this podcast. Me and Michael have both been shocked on the audience we've had for these past two episodes. So hopefully you stick around for us throughout the season. We'll have episodes every week during the football season, then hopefully throughout the whole entire athletics year, bringing in different reporters for different sports, so we can really bring in the all things part of this Mizzou podcast in full force. So again, appreciate you tuning into this episode and all of our content at Missouri Tigers on SI, and we hope to see you next time.